the 10th of May 1995, 104 workers at the Vaal Reefs gold mine in South Africa entered an elevator at the end of their shift. They were exhausted from a physically demanding and hazardous day at work, no doubt looking forward to returning to the surface, to home, and to rest. But on this occasion, due to a mechanical fault in a single vehicle thousands of meters above them, not a single one of them would ever see the surface again. Extensive gold reefs were discovered in the Witwatersrand Basin in South Africa in the 1940s, leading to the formation of the Vaal Reefs Exploration and Mining Company. This was a timely endeavour. The Second World War led to the development of new and more sophisticated mining technology that was put to use after the end of the conflict. The operation continued to expand until, by the 1990s, the site was producing around 75 tons of gold each year, with a value at the time of just under $900 million. Over time, the mine expanded to cover a huge surface area with many above-ground facilities and 10 separate shafts of varying depths. It employed as many as 20,000 people at its peak. Many of these employees were miners, who undertook the difficult and dangerous work of travelling down into the depths of the mine to physically retrieve materials containing gold. Of all the active shafts at Vaal Reefs, shaft number 2 was one of the most productive. It plunged to a depth of around 2,100 meters or 7,000 feet below the surface, and was mined 24 hours a day by miners working shifts of up to 10 hours at a time. To transport miners to the level where they would work on any given day, a system of trains and lifts was in place that could carry people and goods in large numbers around the mine system. The elevators were high capacity, with an upper and a lower floor, allowing one elevator to carry around 100 workers at a time. The elevator of shaft number 2 had already been the site of one horrifying disaster in 1980. On the 27th of March that year, an elevator descending into the shaft had become stuck, but the cable supporting it had continued to pay out regardless. This created slack, and when the elevator cage suddenly became unstuck, it fell to the extent of this slack. This caused enough of a shock to destroy the cable, and the car and all its occupants fell still further to the bottom of the shaft. 31 workers lost their life on that occasion. Most years at Vaal Reefs, smaller accidents would also take place, sometimes costing as many as 12 lives each year. Because of this and many other accidents in mines across South Africa, it was well known that working as a miner was a very dangerous occupation. But for many people who took the job, it was an alternative to abject and potentially deadly poverty. Many mine workers lived in crowded dormitories and earned the equivalent of around $125 a month for work that was difficult, exhausting, and occasionally deadly. On the 10th of May 1995, at around 8 p.m., a locomotive was in use in one of the upper tunnels in the vicinity of Shaft 2. The only person on board was the driver, who lost control of the locomotive when the accelerator became stuck. The train entered a tunnel that was not intended for locomotives. The driver, unable to stop the train despite applying the brakes, panicked and jumped from the train, sustaining minor injuries in the process. Now driverless, the train continued down the tunnel, gathering speed and smashing through buffers that were intended to stop trains in emergencies such as this. It reached Shaft 2 and plunged down into it. At this same moment, 104 workers were being carried back to the surface in an elevator car in Shaft 2 at the end of their shift. The train plummeted down and smashed into this elevator car, causing the cable hauling it to detach. The mangled wreckage of both the train and the elevator car thus fell a further 460 meters, or 1,510 feet, to the bottom of the shaft. The impact of the falling elevator car and train registered on seismic monitoring equipment installed at the surface. It was immediately clear that something had gone terribly wrong. Operations ceased, and rescue parties were dispatched, using other shafts and other tunnels to access the base of Shaft 2. When they arrived, however, it was to find that there was not a single survivor. Many of those on the top section of the elevator had been killed by the impact of the train. Those on the bottom section might have survived this initial collision, but could not possibly have survived the fall and impact that followed. When it was discovered, the entire lower section of the elevator, and everybody inside it, had been crushed to a height of just 45 centimeters, or 18 inches. Over the next several days, the victims of this disaster were painstakingly removed from the mine, sometimes piece by piece. The violent nature of the accident had resulted in many bodies being incomplete. This, combined with the higher temperature so far underground, promoting the process of decomposition, made removing bodies very challenging and traumatizing. Those who participated in the retrieval effort were offered counseling afterwards, and many suffered from poor mental health in the years that followed. The driver of the locomotive was treated for shock. He was not found specifically at fault for the disaster. The train had run out of control due to a mechanical failure, but should have been halted by the buffers that were installed to prevent exactly such an accident. Due to inadequate construction or incorrect placement, the buffers had been unable to safely stop the runaway train. The mechanism that had attached the elevator car to its cable was also examined. It was designed to release automatically in the event that the elevator should accidentally be overwound. Overwinding is when the elevator reaches the surface, but the motor continues to wind. Overwinding can cause damage to the lift as well as serious injury and even death to those riding in it. The automatic release mechanism would prevent overwinding accidents by automatically detaching the cable whenever overwinding took place. However, in this case, the automatic release mechanism had caused the elevator to detach from the cable following the impact from the train. An intervention designed to make the elevator safer had, in fact, made it much more deadly. It was theorized that if this automatic release mechanism had not been in place, some of the workers on the lower level of the elevator might have survived long enough to be rescued. As it was, there were no survivors. A total of 104 mine workers were killed in the disaster. The dead that could be retrieved were laid to rest in a mass ceremony a month after the disaster, and President Nelson Mandela declared a national day of mourning across the country. The year after this disaster, the Mine Health and Safety Act was introduced in South Africa. The Act enshrined in law the responsibility of mining companies to protect the health and safety of their employees. This included more stringent reporting standards with regards to safety, and a provision to protect workers who refused to work due to dangerous conditions. Further to this, the owners of Vaal Reefs and the National Union of Mine Workers formed a trust to provide for the dependents of the workers who had died in the disaster, something that had not happened in any previous mining disaster in South Africa. The trust continued to provide financial support for the families of the deceased for at least 2 decades, before finally being closed. Memorial events are still organized each year, attended by hundreds, to remember the workers who died in a sudden and preventable accident in May 1995. The Vaal Reefs mining disaster remains the most deadly elevator accident ever to have taken place. Vaal Reefs remains open, and gold worth hundreds of millions of dollars continues to be extracted from it each and every year.